With just 1 week to go until the presidential election, Kamala Harris delivers her closing argument in front of thousands in Washington. And in a dueling rally, Donald Trump campaigns in the battleground state of Pennsylvania. Gaza's Hamas-run health ministry says an Israeli airstrike in the north of the territory has left at least 93 Palestinians dead or missing, including 20 children. And China launches a rocket carrying 3 astronauts to its space station. The BBC has exclusive access.
Our headlines today. The teenager accused of murdering 3 young girls in Stockport will appear in court this morning, charged with producing the poison ricin and possessing a military study of an Al-Qaeda training manual.
The Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, will deliver Labour's first budget for 14 years. She's promising big investment, but has warned of difficult decisions.
Well, it's all about the numbers, and the Chancellor's got some rather heavy lifting to do to achieve her goals while not breaking Labour's manifesto promises. We've come to Rachel Reeves' own constituency, Pudsey in West Yorkshire, to see how the budget will affect people and businesses here.
A big night of campaigning with 6 days to go to the US election, but comments from President Joe Biden cause a political row.
How many dogs is it safe to exercise at once? There are calls to limit numbers, but many professional dog walkers are not happy.
There are some towns with no limits. There are some towns with a lot more limits than us. You know, where is this coming from?
Cumbria police say that a significant fire has broken out at the BAE Systems dockyard where the UK's nuclear submarines are built. Officers say there's no nuclear risk at the site in Barrow in Furness, but 2 people have been taken to hospital suffering from suspected smoke inhalation. Local residents are being advised to stay indoors with their doors and windows closed. Let's have a look at what the papers are saying this morning. It's 6:25. We begin with the Express, focusing on the news that more charges have been brought against the teenager accused of murdering 3 young girls in Southport in July. As we've already heard this morning, 18-year-old Axel Rudakabana has been charged with a terror offence and making a biological weapon.
As you may well expect, the budget also features heavily on the front page of the papers this morning. The Times is reporting warnings from business leaders that more taxes, higher wage bills and Labour's overhaul of workers' rights will result in what's described as a perfect storm. It says the government's plans to increase employers' national insurance contributions, which have been talked about quite a bit in the lead-up to the budget, and also the minimum wage, could be too much for some businesses to afford. Ben will be talking about all that on his outside broadcast up in Leeds during the morning.
I don't recall a budget with this much scrutiny for this long, do you? The Eye reports that many people are expected to face painful tax increases as a result of the budget. Looking ahead to the Chancellor's announcement, the paper says Rachel Reeves will, quote, reject austerity as she sets out a new financial course for the country. We'll have more on what's expected from the announcement throughout this morning's programme.
And just one final front page for you. Away from the budget, the Telegraph's front page has been looking at the government's Diwali celebrations. The Prime Minister there pictured at number 10 alongside members of a South Asian dance company at a reception to mark the Hindu Festival of Lights.
6:27. Now, York Minster has survived all sorts of danger over the centuries, from looters and Luftwaffe bombers to the Great Fire of 1984.
Well, now it's facing a new threat from climate change. To safeguard its future, the ancient building is undergoing some of its most significant changes in 150 years, as Keely Donovan has been finding out.
The York Minster has stood proud on the city's landscape for nearly 1,400 years. But like so many of our heritage buildings, extreme weather, exacerbated by climate change, poses a threat like no other.
We cannot get the water off the cathedral quickly enough.
Sadiq Khan has warned that rough sleeping in London will get worse before it gets better, as he aims to end rough sleeping in London's streets by 2030. At a summit held at City Hall, the Mayor announced he would be investing £4.8 million to help rough sleepers stay off the streets for good. Developers have suspended drilling for oil at a site in Surrey. The move comes 4 months after the Supreme Court quashed its planning permission to allow extraction to take place at Horse Hill near Horley. Its owners, UK Oil and Gas, say it has been working with the council to find the most pragmatic way forward after they described the work taking place as unlawful. A London teenager with cerebral palsy is working towards his dream of becoming a Paralympic dressage rider. COVID took up horse riding after he was recommended by doctors as a form of physiotherapy to help strengthen his muscles. It has since become a career for the 16-year-old from Bexley Heath.
It would be a dream for me to get into the Paralympics. I think it's that kind of sense that you've achieved what you want to achieve and you kind of made it, you know you've made it. So yeah, of course it's a dream for me to be in the Paralympics.
Now, as if you didn't know, it's Halloween tomorrow, and well, Kew Gardens is putting on its first After Dark Halloween trail full of hidden surprises. The gardens will be completely transformed into a spectacular adventure running through the entire site.
At 6, the Chancellor unveils one of the biggest ever tax-raising budgets in history, £40 billion to be invested in the NHS, schools and housing.
This is a moment of fundamental choice for Britain. I have made my choices, the responsible choices.
They have raised tax to record levels. They have broken their promises, and it is the working people of this country that are going to pay the price.
Good evening from Westminster. I've been trying to think of the best word to describe this budget, and it's this. It's big. It's really big. I'll bring you the key moments and the reaction in the next few minutes.
As people right across the UK digest today's budget, we are in Lowestoft on the Suffolk coast, finding out what it means for your finances and businesses.
It's going to be an increase. It's certainly a challenge to find that extra money.
Being a working mum, I think she's thought about that as well, and getting people back to work.
Also tonight, devastation in Spain. At least 72 people have died in flash floods after a year's worth of rain in just 8 hours. And I've been to meet one viewer who got in touch with Your Voice, Your BBC News about plans to put hundreds of pylons up across this Suffolk countryside.
On BBC London, reaction from the capital to today's budget announcements, which include news that HS2 will go to Euston with funding for tunnelling to the station. Reaction from some of the capital's businesses to the rise in the national insurance rate for employers.
Realistically, when things like this happen, what it means is that my husband and I and my partners have to work harder because we can afford less staff shifts.
Also ahead tonight, a football U-turn over the right to wear trousers. The Muslim player who took on her local league and won. Plus, how dressage changed this young Londoner's life. A teenager with cerebral palsy talks about his Paralympic dream. And the spooky sights at the famous botanical gardens as Kew goes all out for Halloween. The first case of a new strain of Mpox, previously known as monkeypox, has been detected in the UK. The patient, who'd recently been on holiday in Africa, is being treated at the Royal Free Hospital's Infectious Diseases Unit, and their close contacts are being contact traced. A 17-year-old boy has been found guilty of the murder of Leanne Gordon, who was shot dead through her front door in Hackney last year as she tried to protect her children from gang violence. The Old Bailey heard the 42-year-old mother had been the unintended victim of a feud between rival local gangs. And a controversial oil drilling site in Surrey has been suspended production. The move comes 4 months after the Supreme Court quashed its planning permission to allow extraction at Horse Hill near Hawley. Its owners, UK Oil and Gas, say it's been working with the council to find the most pragmatic way forward.